D'Angelo didn't just sing soul music, he resurrected it. At a time when R&B was drifting into glossy beats and digital production, this shy prodigy from Richmond, Virginia, arrived with a sound that felt ancient and revolutionary at the same time. He was an old soul in a modern era, channeling the ghosts of Marvin Gaye and Al Green, but blending them with the edgy spirit of hip-hop. Yet, just as quickly as he appeared, he vanished. No farewell tour. No explosive breakdown, just silence. Questions hung in the air. What really happened to the man behind Brown Sugar and Voodoo? How did he go from lighting up the charts to becoming a near-mythical recluse? Some blame the weight of fame, others the cruel spotlight of a fickle industry. In truth, D'Angelo's story is a tangle of personal trials, industry politics, and a quiet battle for artistic integrity. This is the tale of how a prodigy changed R&B forever, then slipped away, only to reappear when the world needed him most. Born Michael Eugene Archer in 1974, D'Angelo grew up in a deeply religious household in Richmond, Virginia. His father was a Pentecostal minister, and the church's music became the soundtrack of his childhood. Sunday mornings were electric with soaring gospel choirs and fervent testimony. From an early age, the boy who would become D'Angelo was transfixed, not just by the message, but by the raw power of singing and playing that felt like a direct line to the divine. He was also drawn to the secular and the sensual. Prince fascinated him, the boundary-pushing sexuality, the virtuosic musicianship, and the effortless blending of funk, pop, rock, and soul. Soon, young Michael was devouring the catalogs of Prince, Marvin Gaye, Donny Hathaway, and Curtis Mayfield. The emergent energy of hip-hop, especially artists like A Tribe Called Quest, gave him another lens through which to channel his love of rhythm and groove. By his teens, he had taught himself piano well enough to stand out among his peers. Legend has it he would lock himself in any room with a piano, practicing chords and riffs until the early hours of the morning. Word spread through Richmond's close-knit musical community of this teen prodigy who could not only play but compose and arrange on a level that belied his youth. Industry insiders started to pay attention. At 18, D'Angelo scored his first major break by co-writing the song You Will Know, performed by Black Men United for the Jason's Lyrics soundtrack. It became a modest hit and brought him to the attention of record executives. Within a few years, he was in New York, signing with EMI and working on what would become his first album, an album that would change the sound of modern R&B. In 1995, D'Angelo dropped Brown Sugar, an album that wasn't just a hit, it was a movement. At just 21 years old, he wrote, arranged, and played most of the instruments himself, revealing a deeply layered musicality. The production was raw, warm, and unapologetically analog, contrasting sharply with the slick, digital R&B that dominated the mid-90s. Though the album drew immediate comparisons to classic soul artists, it also carried the weight of hip-hop's sampling culture. Songs like Brown Sugar and Me and Those Dreamin' Eyes of Mine had the timeless feel of a vintage record spinning in some smoky lounge, yet they were undeniably fresh. Critics lauded him for helping spark what would become known as the neo-soul revolution, alongside a new wave of artists like Erykah Badu, Maxwell, and Lauryn Hill. Beyond the sonic innovation, Brown Sugar pointed to something deeper. It was an album recorded with intention. Every note, every chord progression, every subtle vocal run carried the mark of an artist who believed music should be more felt than heard. As a live performer, D'Angelo displayed that same conviction. He was soft-spoken in interviews, but transformed on stage, channeling gospel fervor, jazz improvisation, and hip-hop swagger in a single set. Yet Brown Sugar was only the beginning of a larger story, one that would see D'Angelo pushing musical boundaries, grappling with his own demons, and redefining modern R&B on his own terms. Even as his debut climbed the charts, D'Angelo shied away from the typical trappings of new fame. He rarely gave interviews and had a small inner circle of trusted collaborators. This mystique only fueled public fascination. Fans became obsessed with deciphering every cryptic lyric, every note of his live improvisations, every interview snippet. Journalists, meanwhile, clamored for more access and found themselves shut out by a young artist who genuinely seemed uninterested in the celebrity grind. When he did speak, he talked about music. Not endorsements, not gossip, not flashy lifestyle. He talked about groove, harmony, the emotion behind a chord change. In an era when music videos and tabloids could catapult an artist to stardom, D'Angelo's refusal to play the game became part of his legend. Perhaps because of his reticence, or perhaps because of his extraordinary talent, the world seemed willing to wait for whatever he would do next. In the late 1990s, he began collaborating with a loose collective of like-minded musicians who would come to be known as the Soulquarians. Headquartered mainly at Electric Lady Studios in New York, the group included drummer and producer Questlove, the The late production wizard Jay Dilla, singer Erykah Badu, rapper Common, bassist Pino Palladino, and others. They bonded over a shared love of soul traditions, musical experimentation, and a desire to move Black music forward. Sessions were intense, often lasting through the night, with jam-like explorations that tested the boundaries of jazz, funk, and hip-hop. For D'Angelo, this was both a creative playground and a crucible. The Soulquarians were perfectionists. Everyone was pushing each other, searching for the perfect take or the perfect groove. Analog equipment took center stage, infusing the recordings with an undeniable warmth. And at the core of it all was D'Angelo's unwavering belief that music had to breathe, had to have a human pulse. After nearly 5 years of hushed anticipation, D'Angelo released Voodoo in 2000. It was unlike anything R&B had ever heard. Where Brown Sugar still carried some polished elements of 90s production, Voodoo was intentionally dirty. The drums were off-kilter, the bass lines meandered with a loose funk, and D'Angelo's vocals floated in and out, often buried deep in the mix like a hidden instrument. Critics described it as a hypnotic journey through the history of soul, an album that reveled in imperfection and spontaneity. The lead single, untitled How Does It Feel, became an instant classic, not just for its Prince-like arrangement and sultry falsetto, but for the now iconic music video. Filmed in one continuous take, the video showed D'Angelo shirtless, glistening, and seemingly seducing the camera with each lyric. Its impact was immediate and overwhelming. Suddenly, the man who wanted to be known for his musicianship became a global sex symbol. Audiences, especially on tour, fixated on his looks. Night after night, fans screamed for him to take off his shirt to reenact the music video live. Gone were the moments of quiet reverence for his band's intricate improvisations. In their place came catcalls and demands for a striptease. According to Questlove, D'Angelo felt objectified and betrayed, disheartened that years of meticulous musicianship and a groundbreaking record were overshadowed by the spectacle of his physique. It wasn't just the screaming fans. The media latched onto the narrative. Tabloid headlines and entertainment shows wouldn't stop airing clips from Untitled, positioning D'Angelo as this generation's sex icon. For an introvert who'd invested so much in the music itself, this shift was emotionally devastating. Each night on tour felt like a slow humiliation rather than a celebration of art. After the grueling Voodoo tour, D'Angelo retreated. There were no official statements, no farewell tours, just an eerie silence that left fans and the industry in the dark. Speculations began. Was he suffering from depression? Had the relentless sexualization driven him to quit? Was he battling addiction? Rumors flew, each more dramatic than the last. The truth was more complicated. By his own later admissions, D'Angelo did struggle with substance abuse, self-image issues, and the pressures of an industry that demanded constant output. He was exhausted from the emotional toll of the Voodoo era and felt disillusioned with the machine of fame. People who worked with him, like Questlove and other Soulquarian collaborators, spoke of multiple interventions, attempts to pull him back into music. But D'Angelo seemed to resist, either out of stubbornness, shame, or a genuine need to escape the spotlight. In 2005, he crashed his Hummer in suburban Richmond in an accident some interpreted as a cry for help. Police reports indicated he was under the influence. Soon after, he faced legal issues for drug possession and solicitation. More rumors circulated. Stories of canceled recording sessions, missed opportunities, and million-dollar deals he allegedly walked away from. Friends described him as a sensitive soul, someone who internalized pain and couldn't handle the superficial demands of stardom. Meanwhile, fans were left with only 2 studio albums from a genius who seemingly had more to say. As the years ticked by, record labels and fans alike grew impatient. There were always rumors of a 3rd album in the works. Some claimed D'Angelo had stockpiled hundreds of unreleased demos. Others said he'd scrapped entire projects because he wasn't satisfied with the sound. When you're hailed as the savior of soul at 21, the stakes for a follow-up can feel astronomical and perhaps paralyzing. Executives reportedly tried to coax him back with massive advances. Producers lined up, hoping to be the one to shepherd D'Angelo's return, yet nothing materialized. For nearly a decade, the elusive singer existed more in myth than reality. Musicians close to him would occasionally drop hints that he was back in the studio, that he was rediscovering the groove. But then a year or 2 would pass with no new music, reigniting the rumor mill of cancellations and personal setbacks. Insiders pointed out that D'Angelo was never one to chase fame. His driving force was the music itself. If he didn't believe in it, he'd rather walk away than deliver a half-baked product. That level of perfectionism, combined with personal struggles, created an impossible atmosphere for consistent output. Meanwhile, younger artists emerged, names like John Legend, Alicia Keys, Frank Ocean, who cited D'Angelo as a guiding influence. The neo-soul wave he helped birth moved forward without him. Then, in December 2014, 14 years after Voodoo, something miraculous happened. Without any typical industry buildup, D'Angelo released Black Messiah. No weeks of teasers, no lead singles saturating radio stations. It simply arrived in the middle of the night, a stealth missile of pure artistry in the streaming era. The album was electric and urgent. It tackled race, justice, identity, and the palpable tensions of its time. Tracks like 1000 Deaths and The Charade channeled the raw frustration coursing through a country grappling with police brutality and systemic racism. D'Angelo wasn't holding back. His guitar licks snarled, the bass lines growled, and his voice shifted from tender lament to sharp protest. It was a stark departure from the bedroom sultriness of Untitled. Instead of seduction, Black Messiah went straight for the jugular of social consciousness. Critics hailed it as yet another masterpiece. Fans, long deprived of new D'Angelo material, dissected every lyric, every note, every cryptic reference. The cultural timing was uncanny. Released shortly after the protests in Ferguson, Missouri, the album spoke to a collective anger and yearning for change. For a brief moment, it felt like D'Angelo was back, ready to reclaim his spot as the visionary of neo-soul. But just as before, after a short tour and a handful of appearances, he slipped back into the shadows. No continuous promo run, no endless press tours, just a surge of creative energy followed by more silence. Since 2015, D'Angelo has remained largely off the grid, surfacing occasionally like a spirit who refuses to be pinned down. There were sporadic sightings, surprise shows in Europe, a mesmerizing Voodoo's appearance in 2021 that reminded the world of his lingering power. In 2022, rumors began circulating that he was in the studio again, working with longtime collaborators like Questlove and Raphael Saadiq. A few Reddit threads even claimed that Kendrick Lamar had dropped by to jam. But as always with D'Angelo, nothing is confirmed until it lands, if it ever does. He has no official Instagram, no active Twitter account, no constant stream of behind-the-scenes vlogs. In an era where most artists maintain a 24/7 social media presence, D'Angelo's silence is both perplexing and oddly refreshing. Some fans believe he'll emerge with a fourth album when the time is right. Others think his sporadic appearances are all we'll ever get. What's clear is that his absence only deepens his mystique. Each year he refuses to play the industry game, the legend grows stronger, and the question of, where is D'Angelo, becomes more urgent. He's become the ultimate phantom of neo-soul, always rumored, never fully captured. D'Angelo's silence hasn't dimmed his influence. If anything, his rarity has elevated his status among younger artists looking for authenticity in a hyper-commercial musical landscape. Figures like Anderson .Paak, Solange, H.E.R., and The Weeknd have cited him as a blueprint, proof that soul could evolve without compromising its heart. Frank Ocean's introspective, shape-shifting approach to R&B can be traced back to the trail D'Angelo helped blaze. His commitment to analog warmth in a digital age underscored a larger truth. Sometimes the imperfections, the grit, and the human touches are what make music timeless. In an industry increasingly focused on singles and streaming metrics, D'Angelo insisted on the album experience as an immersive, cohesive journey. He also proved that vulnerability is a powerful currency. Whether it was the raw sensuality of Untitled or the anguished cries of Black Messiah, his music struck a deeply emotional chord with audiences. He inspired other artists to pour their souls into their craft, to take risks, and to embrace silence as much as sound. It's tempting to label D'Angelo as a tragic figure, but that might be too simplistic. Yes, addiction, personal struggles, and the constant industry pressures contributed to his withdrawal, but there's another layer. He recognized that fame could be corrosive. He knew that to remain authentic, he had to step back from the machine. In many ways, D'Angelo's story is a testament to artistic integrity. It's about a musician who refused to commodify his art or his body, even when the world was waving millions of dollars in his face. He walked away not because he failed, but because he saw the toll it was taking on his spirit. And in that retreat, he found a way to survive, heal, and eventually return with a project that spoke to the world's fractures and his own journey toward renewal. D'Angelo didn't fade away, he walked away, not because he couldn't handle success, but because he knew the spiritual and emotional cost of the spotlight. His legacy is a tapestry of contradictions. The introverted genius who became a reluctant sex symbol, the deeply religious soul who explored erotic themes with disarming intimacy, the artist who vanished at his peak, only to emerge when least expected. Whether or not he returns with another full-length opus, D'Angelo's impact is already woven into the DNA of modern soul. He gave us Brown Sugar, Voodoo, and Black Messiah, each a testament to musical possibilities unbound by trend or time. And his decision to remain mostly silent in an era hungry for constant content may be the loudest statement of all. He reminded us that music, at its best, is a sacred space where authenticity trumps marketability. And in doing so, D'Angelo remains a mythic figure, haunting, holy, and unforgettable.